guys, Perri back here with another exclusive Collider interview for you. We are talking more horror, and we're following up the events of Scare Diego. I'm not even going to say anything right now because my first question is, because immediately when I do these interviews, it's like, what are people searching for? What do they want to know? And I just have a feeling when people start to see footage from this movie, the first thing that's going to be on their mind is, how do you pronounce the name of this movie? I think I know because we've discussed it last night. I'm getting comfortable with it. But what is the correct pronunciation?
La Llorona.
The Curse of La Llorona.
The Curse of La Llorona.
It sounds like a Y, the
took
double
people to
L.
say that.
You
yeah.
put the American spin on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you got to roll your R.
See,
Yeah, the double L just means a Y. If
I
you can think
can-
of that, then you can do it.
Wait, say that
So
again.
the two L's
Two
together
L's.
make a Y sound.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you
So
figure that out, then you'll be fine.
The Curse of La Llorona.
Yes,
That's a
it.
fine way to
And you
say
can
it
roll your
without
R
actually.
If you're gonna be
Sounds
great.
like we're on Horror
I feel-
Sesame Street.
That should be a thing. I feel like I can roll my R if it's separately, but the second I try to say it in an actual sentence or even a word, I can't do it anymore.
There was a lot of concern about naming it La Llorona, just in terms of like how it could be pronounced, and of course, but actually, I feel like it opens up just awesome conversations.
I
and
think it's
like,
so beautiful.
right?
It's
like,
such a beautiful word.
and that's what it
It
is.
really is. It's almost too beautiful for her in some way, but then she used to be beautiful, and now she's a monster. So there's something.
It's the weeping woman.
Layers.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes there are some words in certain languages. Share with me. There's some words in certain languages. There's some words that they just gotta stay in that language. And definitely, if you say the weeping woman, or it does not sound the same when you
As
say
La Llorona.
La Llorona, it's someone who's crying, but it also has a lot of pain, and there's something really beautiful about that name. You know that if you translate, it's not going to happen.
And just for people who don't know the legend of it, can you start, like, especially for you, Patricia, because we were talking about it last night, and, you know, you grew up with that. So day one, the first time you ever heard it, what was the story?
You mean when I was little?
Yeah.
Oh, I was 6 years old. We were in Mexico, and my older brother told me to, that it was. I had three older brothers. They always, obviously, when you have older brothers, they always play around with you, and they believed in it so much that we turned the light off, and they says, "You gotta behave. Don't talk too loud, because otherwise my mom is gonna come. You gotta listen to what she says, otherwise La Llorona is gonna come." And I said, "La Llorona? Yeah, La Llorona, La Llorona, the weeping lady." Ever since, I have not been able to sleep in complete darkness. It's amazing how these stories, they're just staying with you. And what's so special about La Llorona is that for us, I mean, it never goes away. You hear it as a kid, but even as a grown-up, there's this part of you that still does believe in it.
I was at a restaurant yesterday, and there was a very elderly waiter who was waiting on me, and he was a Mexican. And he asked me what I was doing here, and I said, "I'm here to promote La Llorona." And he froze. And he said, "Are you kidding?" And I said, "No." And he said, "They made a movie about her?" And I said, "Yes." And he was an elderly man. Again, he goes, "Since I was a child, I've been waiting to see this." So it's great.
What drew you to this? And actually, a first feature, right? Feature directorial debut on this?
Yeah, this is my first movie. Before this, I just did commercials, and I did this one short film that New Line saw, and there was just like a lot of similarities between that and the script they were developing for La Llorona. So, they hired me to do it. And what I loved about it is, I've always loved the legend, and I think that there's something just very primal and powerful about that. I think that, you always see stories of mothers and kids in horror movies, and I think that it just taps into something very, very simple and raw that is within all of us. So I love that. I love the family aspect of it, and then I also love that, the kind of the entry point to the story is this kind of 70s true crime, guys.
Spoonerisms. I love spoonerisms. You can do that all day.
It's the 70s true. I keep on saying it, guys. It's now a true crime. True crime element. So, yeah, that's what I liked. It was so good up to that point, right?
You made your point.
Yeah.
You made your point. So they see your short film, and then do they just come knocking on your door and say, "Hey, you want to direct this movie?" Or do you have to go into a room with a full pitch and your own take on this?
It was the strangest thing. It was basically I got, my agent, and then he just put me in, gave me this, I got my agent on a Friday. He gave me the script that Friday. I met with him on Monday, and there was no pitch involved. I literally just sat down with him, and I was like, I love this, and I love and you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking Zodiac. It's gonna be 70s and Zodiac. That's gonna be the baseline feeling. And then after I came out of the meeting, I was like, why did I say Zodiac? That is totally a crazy reference. They're gonna think I'm insane. But it was very casual, and then they hired me basically like a week later. It was absolutely surreal.
Well, I can kind of picture the Zodiac vibe. I mean, not just with the actual time period setting, but you have a very strong color palette and sense of atmosphere based on what we saw last night, and I think that came through pretty strongly.
Oh, thanks.
Linda, how did you get involved in this one? What is your thing with horror in general? Are you into it or not so much?
I used to love watching it, and then when I had my child, I was kind of backed off for a while, and then and now I'm getting back into it again. But I really love it. I think there's something so you're so present when you're scared in a film. You can't think about anything else, and your adrenaline's both like I have a habit of hitting people next to me when I'm getting scared. So it takes over everything. You can't think of anything but what you're watching, and then I love what it does to people. And for instance, I think if there's something that scares you when you're a kid, you never forget it. Like La Llorona when they were a kid, or for instance, I'm terrified of sharks, which is based on a movie, because of Jaws. There are certain things that you just don't forget once they work their way into your subconscious or your consciousness. So I think that's what was amazing about horror movies. And for us to be able to play in a horror movie, it's what I didn't realize is how incredibly physical it is. And the acting is crazy because there's never really a moment where you're able to relax or have like a little chat. Or any kind of, there's not that much levity when you're sort of like somebody's trying to kill your children the whole entire film. So even we find moments of it, but there's this pace that you have to operate at that is screaming and crying and yelling and chasing and running and falling and all of those things that you have to do in the film, which are a really great challenge. It's really my first time doing that. So it's been great.
Is there a go-to detox, like at the end of a shooting day? Do you do anything to kind of shake it off and get past it, or are you basically going back to your hotel or wherever you're staying and putting the lights on?
Yeah, I think more like putting the lights on, I think. And then also just kind of like passing out exhausted.
That I can imagine, especially given the bathtub scene we saw last night. Because even the way you capture something like that, I'm looking at all the visuals, and it felt very mobile and handheld. And there's something about the way that shot in particular that makes it feel especially frenetic, where the viewer kind of hurts with you when she comes after you. Did you have any kind of any specific horror movies besides Zodiac that you looked at for an influence for the look and the design of the film?
I think I went through every single bathtub scene that there is, like back to like Diabolique, to What Lies Beneath, to I think even like Jezebel, even the full range of like everything I could find. And
Tub Time Machine?
Yeah, that was that was the key reference. I mean, I put that top of the list, and you can see a lot of Hot Tub Time Machine, in the scene if you watch carefully. No, actually, one of the biggest things is I was like, I want it to be really bright. I want it to be a really bright, clean-looking, safe place and safe scene, because I feel like that it's such like an invasion that if you make it look really bright and it doesn't look like it's going to be a scary scene, I feel like that's even more unsettling. So.
That's something we were talking about last night when we were doing our video discussing the clip too, is something that's so eerie about that particular scene is you really see the motherly nature of La Llorona come through before the terror happens, and you often see, just the scare happens, there's a jump scare, but you get to see both sides of this legend. Is that something you're really looking forward to bringing to screen powerfully like that?
100%. That's actually a big theme through the whole movie, and it's I always like the quick pitch. I always say it's like a story of three mothers, and you have La Llorona, and then Linda and Patricia, and they come together and they I want to say collide together. Collide together, guys. But it is the collision of all their characters, and you definitely the story of La Llorona is the story of a mother, and you get to see it kind of in full force.
I need to talk about the young actors in the movie too, because I think that was one of the most impressive things that I saw last night. Those second two scenes that we saw, they look fantastic. So is it the kind of situation where they're totally cool doing what they're doing? Do you have to have any kind of, sensitivity when you're doing that kind of scene with a young actor?
They're great. Those kids are great. I mean, all the kids in the movie are great. They were so professional and so happy to be at work, and they didn't complain about anything. And it's hard. As hard as it was for us, it's just as hard for them, and they're young. So they go to school during the day while they're doing all of that. But they had the best attitude. They were really excited about it. There were certain things where you could tell that they were starting to feel scared. But then, the woman who plays La Llorona, she's really a great person, and you can't help but love her. So we all laugh and joke, and then it lightens the tension again. But they are really, really good actors, those kids, and they're really good kids, and their parents are nice.
Is there any kind of thing that, I'm thinking actually about It in particular now, it's crossing my mind, where they didn't let some of the kid actors see Bill, kind of blur that line between himself and Pennywise? Did you do anything like that to kind of maintain, the authenticity there?
Sounds like they had a bigger budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we all had to sit in the same room together quite a lot.
Yeah, we were in a very small house. There was not enough room.
We didn't have the It
to
money.
keep her, like in a separate area. No, we were a very small, scrappy movie, and yeah, so we didn't have those luxuries.
To Michael's credit, though, it doesn't look like it, right?
No, not at all. I mean, especially with the variety we saw last night, I saw a whole bunch of locations, and all of them were lit especially beautifully, too, which in a movie like this, it goes back to enhancing the atmosphere. And another thing that I loved about the camera work is that idea of, you're kind of tracking down hallways, and it creates that whole, that feeling of, I don't know what's going to be lurking around the corner. So can you guys also speak a little bit to scares that are woven into the narrative versus jump scare? Because for a lot of horror fans out there, sometimes you hear the term jump scare and it's like, I don't want a cheap scare. Right. So when do you go one way or the other?
Well, I think one of the scares that's built into the movie is the knowledge about the mythology of the character. It's already ingrained in our psyche. And so many more people are going to become aware of this, and they're going to go, oh my God, you got to come see this movie. And they're going to start telling their children about it. They're going to go in already thinking about her. Then when they see her, it's going to be like, if I tell you, hey, I saw this ghost, and I can tell you, but when you see it yourself, you're going to be scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also like, it totally is the balance. I was actually, I'm so glad that the clips played so well last night, but I was kind of nervous showing them because everyone knew there were going to be scares. I mean, it's Scare Diego. You're going to sit down, you're going to watch a scare. So I think they played really well. I think they play even better in the movie because there are so many, just like the pace of the film, there's so many misdirects, and you think there's going to be a scare, there isn't, and so there's that tease throughout the whole thing. So when you actually get to those scenes, you've already been disarmed. You've already, you don't think it's going to be a scare, and then so it really plays even better. And I've had, because I've shown the clips to my friends, and then they've seen the whole movie, and they're like, I thought it was scary when I just saw the clips, but in the context of the whole movie, it is really, really unsettling.
I can't believe you. So you have a cut put together, even though you guys aren't hitting theaters until April. That is a wonderful luxury to have.
Oh yeah, it's all done. Honestly, we're just like tinkering right now. Basically the New Line's really been extremely generous in just getting behind this and giving us, a long kind of, long runway to get it out there.
When it comes to horror right now, New Line is the company to be with. I also wanted to ask on set, because, oftentimes we see a lot of digital effects in our movies, and it seems like, based on what I saw last night, like most of the scares are very practical. So is there anything that you guys have to react to that isn't actually there on set, or is it all practical here?
No.
It's all practical for the most part, yeah.
Which made it great because I love the old horror movies with the werewolf, the mummy, Frankenstein, where you have a practical monster and not a CGI being. So, but the one thing that we did have to react to that was not there were sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And psychological scares, which played great in the film.
Yeah, I also think it's, La Llorona is something that is so real to us. You don't have to really truly imagine anything because we feel it in our blood, and that certainly helped.
She said blood.
Yeah.
We feel it in our blood.
I feel like in the States, we don't have enough creepy legends like this. Like, all I grew up was like with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and then I have a friend who lives in Iceland, and they get Grilla, who comes down from the mountain and like takes away children for Christmas, and you guys have this.
Well, I think this will become an American one, not quite, because La Llorona is universal. I mean, every culture has their own version of La Llorona. And it's great that it's the U.S. that is doing it, taking one that is so important for us, and I think it's going to just blend and become universal.
I like the sound of that. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Huge congratulations on the footage you screened last night. Thank you to everybody watching this video right now. Don't forget, The Curse of La Llorona hits theaters April 2019. Be sure to check it out. Also, like and share this interview, and we will see you soon with more Comic-Con coverage.